Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very special two-way tonight. Thank you for joining. Glad to have you here. Run through the news for you. I have two great guests, both from the Tar Heel State, from North Carolina, one of the most beautiful and interesting, politically interesting states in America, has been for quite some time. We're going to talk about the confluence of political news in North Carolina, but also around the country, and then take your questions and comments. If you're here on the two-way platform, want to be involved in the conversation, whether you've ever raised your hand before or not. Tonight's the night. Raise your hand. If you're on X or YouTube, enjoy the show. Don't put smack in the chat. Peace, love, and understanding, please. And I say that every night or most every night, but I'll emphasize it tonight because we're playing two, as they say. We've got a second hour of two-way tonight coming up at 7 Eastern, right immediately joining this program with a great journalist, a great talent who some of you know, but I bet some of you are going to be meeting him for the first time tonight. Ari David has started a great news organization, newsletter called Upward News. He'll be here later, and we'll explain what Upward News is. But Ari is going to lead a conversation about the deepening infighting in the conservative movement in the country, really, on question of anti-Semitism, on Israel. And amongst Ari's guests at 7 Eastern Time will be Laura Loomer, who's been on Two Way before. We're glad to have her back. And the U.S. editor of Unheard and the founding editor of Compact, Saurabh Amari. So that'll happen at 7. I urge you, I beg you, I plead with you, do yourself a favor, stay with us for the second hour coming up immediately after our normal discussion here. And you'll have an opportunity to ask questions then too. So please, if you want to get in the conversation, raise your hand. In terms of news, there's more Epstein, the aftermath of the Epstein vote. There's also some trouble discussed on this platform quite a bit that the Comey prosecution may not be decided on the merits, but may be thrown out. We'll talk about the developments today that led to some to believe even more strongly that that case will never get to trial. The White House went hard after ABC News today, following up on the president going after an ABC News correspondent in the Oval Office yesterday. We might talk about that and other things. The president spoke at the Saudi investment conference at the Kennedy Center, and he had about 17 different topics. We'll may make some time for that, may not. The new incoming mayor of New York City, we told you this morning on the morning meeting, is reappointing the police commissioner, which is a good sign for many who thought she did a good job under the previous administration. But he also made some remarks about law enforcement that for some cut in the other direction. And the first and second ladies were in North Carolina today, meeting with military families, and talked about a bunch of stuff. Got a rousing reception, no surprise there. But the first lady talked about AI, and we don't always hear her talk about serious substantive issues. So we'll play some of that for you as well. As I said, if you want to get in the conversation and you're on the two-way platform, please raise your hand. In a moment, our two guests will be here. We'll run through the news with them, and then again, stay with us for our second hour with Ari David and his guests at 7 Eastern. Quick word from one of our sponsors, the good folks at Cozy Earth. If you're looking for comfortable clothes for yourself or perhaps for holiday presents, now's the time to get 40% off. Yes, you heard me. 40% off Cozy Earth, all on the website. Go to cozyearth.com. Right now, use the code two-way for 40% off. The bamboo pajama set, the bubble cuddle blanket. Can you imagine 40% off a bubble cuddle blanket? This is a great country. If more of you bought the bubble cuddle blanket at 40% off, I think you'd probably say the country is on the right track rather than the wrong track, because it's an extraordinary product, and to get 40% off of that is even more extraordinary. They're having a Black Friday sale at cozyearth.com right now. It's based on my calendar, it's not actually Friday, but it is available to you. Use the code two-way at cozyearth.com for 40% off. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Sheets, towels, pants, pajamas, everything on the site. Amazing. 40% off. cozyearth.com, promo code two-way, 40% off your full order right now. Thank you for your attention to that matter. All right, here we go. Two guests with us tonight, both from North Carolina. That makes them North Carolinians. One who's been here before, and one, I believe, making her two-way debut. And she won't be nervous because based on what I've read about her, she's an experienced communicator. Natalie Murdock, welcome to Two Way. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. Happy to be here.
How does one become a state senator in North Carolina? What did you have to do to get that job?
Yes, well, proud to be in North Carolina, born and raised. I need to count probably fourth, fifth generation, if not even farther back. But ran in 2020. Our predecessor was appointed to the Utilities Commission by Governor Cooper, and so it was an open seat and was already a county level elected, focusing on soil and water of all things. People ignore that, but when I ran, they said, "You're the soil and water girl." And so in North Carolina, we have 50 senators, and we all represent around 200,000 people. So
Is
I
that a
have
full?
South Durham and
Yeah.
all of Chatham County.
Okay. And is that a full-time job or do you do something else?
It is part-time. It is part-time, but can become full-time.
Yeah.
But on paper by statute, we're part-time, but there are years where we are in session January through October.
So do you have another job? And if so, what is it?
Yes, yes. So I consult. I consult for national nonprofits. I have a background in transportation, criminal justice, along with agriculture. So nonprofit consulting is where I have found my home of a flexible job that allows me to serve as a legislator here in North Carolina.
And for you, what's the difference right now between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party?
Oh boy. What a big question. I think there are a lot of differences. I mean, I just want to get back to having true rules and standards. I mean, we're coming off of not only a federal shutdown, but here in North Carolina, we're the only state in the nation that doesn't truly have a budget. So in the Senate, we're in the super minority. And so they can't say that we're the reason that we don't have a budget. So I've just seen a lot of inability to be productive and get things done and to put people first. I'm seeing a lot of chaos, not a lot of order, and a lot of cruelty. I mean, I think when it comes to SNAP cuts, we felt those here in North Carolina deeply. Just the level of cruelty, whether it be immigration enforcement that we're going to talk about later, and just basic needs that people have, along with healthcare. I just am not seeing policies that are putting people first, in my opinion, on the Republican.
And lastly, and then we'll bring your fellow North Carolinian in, Governor McCrory. What would you say is the simplest explanation for why Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris?
I think the simplest explanation, clear messenger, and aspirational. I think people believe they can be him, they can be wealthy and successful. I think that people see something in him that is like them and something that they want to be as far as being a successful businessman and the economy.
Okay. Thank you for all that. And thank you for being here. Really happy to have you here. And here is your fellow Tar Heel, former mayor, former governor, business executive, and a man who loved working with Democrats in the legislature when he was governor. Pat McCrory. Governor, welcome back to Two Way. Thank you for being here.
Good to be back, Mark. You're doing a great job. And Natalie, good to see you too.
Now, do you two know each other particularly well?
Not directly, but everyone knows Governor McCrory.
Yeah.
So, I'm real impressed with her presence, I'll tell you. And it's good to see good young people.
But I have to jump in. A fan of you being a pro-transit mayor. As someone who worked on the Light Rail project, we use Charlotte as an example. And I said, hey, if Charlotte can do it, we can too. We're still working on it though. As you know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's funny. There's some states that are of larger size. North Carolina is what, like the 12th largest state, I think.
Ninth largest.
Ninth largest state. All right, so it's top 10 state, and yet it's one of those states where don't be offended by the expression. In my experience, political elites tend to know each other. Business leaders throughout the state. It's not so big. It's big in population, not so big in size. But every time I meet a politician or a business leader or a union leader in North Carolina, and they're like, yeah, they pretty much.
Him at the playground.
Hold on.
Y'all remember that?
Don't know what that is. Is that coming from one of you or no? No. All right. Anyway, so I'm not surprised. My point is, you two probably know 50 people in common. We won't run through the list, but that's been my experience. All right. Thank you both for being here. Now, let's talk about North Carolina a little bit. Not as much attention as it got in California or Illinois, but you had an ICE operation in two of your cities. I believe in both your cities, in Charlotte, right, and Natalie, Senator, where you represent. Senator Murdock, you first. How did the people of North Carolina receive the presence of ICE agents and deportation activities? Was it a ruckus? Was it fine? How was it received?
Yeah, in Durham, we are a very, forward-thinking, progressive city. And so we have been planning actually on this since the top of the year. We knew that at some point what is now still going on in real time was going to occur. Most recently, we really looked to Chicago for examples as far as how to respond as a community. The intel we received, obviously, as a state senator, in constant contact with state level law enforcement, along with two of my sheriffs, since I have two counties, and we really were keeping up with what was going on in Charlotte, knowing that it would be coming to other parts of the state. But Charlotte is definitely where they had the biggest presence, some 250 agents as of right now. 200 plus across the state have been detained. But Charlotte is where you saw the bigger presence of folks at Lowe's and the grocery store, things of that nature, breaking into cars, very aggressive response. In Durham, Raleigh, Triangle area, it was a smaller presence where from what I was tracking yesterday, we had around 5 locations where we know there were ICE agents. In Durham, in my district, we had around 3 that were detained. But Charlotte was definitely the really, really big show of force that we were anticipating. But I can't stress enough how proud I am of our community from Charlotte to Durham. I was actually in community yesterday talking with business owners, talking with educators. There was a manager that instructed 20 plus of his employees just to stay home. People are being strategic. They're saying, do what you have to do to be safe, and working together as a community. We've been having volunteers at schools so that students aren't fearful. But on the school front, unfortunately, my county, Durham Public Schools, we did have over 20% absentee. And I saw some footage in Charlotte where classrooms were simply empty. And that is my concern, of children that can't learn, folks that can't get their health care. We have a clinic in the Lakewood area in Durham that is a heavy Hispanic Latino area. One person came to get healthcare services yesterday, and that's why we put that clinic over there for them, because folks live pretty close. They can just walk down. There's a lot of employment nearby. And so what we have seen is it's been very disruptive to the community at large. And I think the absenteeism in the school is one example of there's a way to have a targeted approach to focus on criminals. But in North Carolina, I did verify right before joining you all, we do know of citizens that were detained without due process. And that is not only concerning, it is unacceptable. Everyone should have a right to due process.
Yeah. Senator, a couple more things to follow up on and then to the governor. First of all, has it been reported that citizens were detained? I haven't seen that, but...
One in Charlotte. There is one in Charlotte. I triple checked with someone before logging on, but for sure one in Charlotte.
And as far as you know, is the absenteeism at schools and at workplaces, is that amongst people who are here legally or only amongst people who are here illegally?
Mixed, because as you know, a number of the children were born here. So their parents are fearful of not only dropping them off to school, but picking them up. And particularly with these hardworking people, I mean, folks that are told, just stay home. It was very well documented. There is a business owner that has a bakery in Charlotte. In 28 years, this was the first time that he closed. So the lost wages, the lost productivity, our medical system, Duke Hospital is in my district as well. So you also have folks that are not showing up for work, your CNAs, your nurses that just support, keep our hospital going. To put it in perspective, North Carolina, 11% of our workers are immigrants, 11%. So if overnight
are immigrants or people here illegally?
Immigrants. So it's a mix. It's immigrants, some of varying legal status. And back to the legal status, there was a report from today where someone was here legally and detained. So as you know, you still can have various levels of documentation that say you're here legally.
All right, Senator, thank you. Governor, I'm always so impressed by how mature your state is. One of the states I'd expect no rioting or conflict, because people in your state, they're just the business community, the private sector, government, everybody nice and mature. How are you experiencing this ICE presence in 2 of your big cities?
I think the senator pretty well explained it. Just a little history. Back in 2013 or 14, when I was governor, the Republican legislature joined with the Democrats in making it easier for the employers to hire illegal immigrants. They got rid of the old Reagan I-9 requirements.
Right.
And passed a bill to do that. I vetoed that bill. My Republican legislature, who are many big Trump supporters today, overrode my veto. So we're actually very pro-employer hiring of immigrants, both legal and illegal. There's not a lot of requirements on the employer in North Carolina since 2013-14. So we're really seeing the impact today in Charlotte, for example, or all week in Charlotte. We have about 20% of school kids not showing up. In some schools, it's probably over 50% because we have one major high school here in Charlotte that's 80 to 90% Latino or Hispanic. Employers, construction sites are empty. We have some restaurants closed. Other restaurants are open, but some of the cooks aren't there. I just talked to a good friend of mine who owns a pub. He says his cook has the flu this week. He's been with them for 20 years. You don't see many people cutting the lawns today in the neighborhoods or blowing the leaves. We're right in the middle of fall. You just do not see the day laborers out on the street. They are not coming to work this week. And so there's a major impact.
I want to give you both two choices, and I think these are fair choices. But if you say you don't want to pick between A and B, I'll understand. But I want to give you two choices and see how you two come down. People who in North Carolina who are working illegally, they're in the country illegally, and they're still working, are lowering wages for citizens and other people here legally, taking jobs away from people here legally and our citizens, and are strain on the economy of North Carolina. Or B, the people here illegally who are working are integrated and as an integral part of the North Carolina economy, and it would be folly to try to stop them from working because they're performing essential tasks that otherwise wouldn't necessarily get done. Senator, you first. Do you associate yourself more with A or with B?
Yeah, definitely associate more with B. And I say that as someone that born and raised actually in Guilford County, North Carolina, and very diverse mixed school. And so I truly believe they're an integral part of our communities. And we both serve on the state level. So I also don't want to skip over the fact this is a federal issue. I miss the days when you had the Gang of Eight that said we're going to work collectively to do a better job with immigration. So what you're finding is your sheriffs, your local police chief, your mayors, folks like me, we are where the rubber hits the road, where we're dealing with a federal immigration system that is a mess. And we just need to have the political will to figure it out. The people that are here, we need to figure it out. We all agree on having a secure border, figuring out a way for people to have a reasonable path to citizenship. And obviously, if you're breaking the law, just like if a citizen's breaking the law, that is a problem, and we will deal with that. But really, for locals to be stuck in the middle of this when the federal government needs to step up and have a better immigration system.
Governor, would you put yourself more in the A camp or the B camp on immigrants?
I'd say the C camp, because one area you're not putting in there is public safety. And there's no doubt, ever since I was mayor in 1995, I did a mayor study on both immigration, illegal and legal immigration. And we do have a major gang issue in Charlotte and in other areas of the state. And we have a major child trafficking area. And this is due to a lot of international gangs and drug dealing. That's having a terrible impact on our community and our murder rate, which is very high in Charlotte this time. And that has got to be talked about. And we don't know the identity of a lot of these people because their real identity wasn't ever known because we quit enforcing some of the laws from the Reagan era, even when they were arrested and put in our county jails. We also have cities, including my city of Charlotte, that are basically sanctuary cities where the sheriffs and the police are not cooperating with the federal government. And that's my major concern right now, is that there's this lack of connectivity between the federal and local law enforcement where they're not working together, which is inexcusable on both sides. Yeah. Because we know where the bad guys are. I know our police know where the bad guys are. They knew where they were when I was mayor from 95 to 2009. But right now, there's no trust between the feds in the current administration and local governments that are primarily in blue cities that are basically told you cannot work with the feds. So I kind of put the blame on both sides on how this, I think, very poorly implemented process has been implemented during the past 2 weeks in North Carolina.
All right, we'll come back to North Carolina in a second, but I want to show you something that was said in an interview by the mayor-elect of my city, of New York City, on the issue of law enforcement and ICE. This is Mr. Zohran Mamdani, an interview with WPIX here in New York, and get both your reactions to his position. Number 20, please.
Announcement is coming a day after Tom Homan said in an interview that ICE is going to be back in New York City, that agents are going to be conducting operations and raids. Did you talk to the police commissioner about that fact that she was tipped off to that one in Lower Manhattan a couple of weeks ago? And if that were to happen again, if she were tipped off, how would you want her to respond?
Well, what I've shared with the commissioner, and I would also shared publicly, is the fact that we can never go back to the days where Eric Adams would go on national television and open the door to the NYPD handling civil immigration enforcement. That can never even be entertained. The other day, I was speaking with a New Yorker who broke into tears as she told me about her aunt who had been visited by ICE at their home, at the school, at so many places of how she engaged with the world around her as a New Yorker. People are living in fear. And what we will ensure is the NYPD will be delivering public safety, not assisting ICE in their attempts to fulfill the administration's goal of creating the single largest deportation force in American history.
So, Senator, what do you think of that policy position that he'll instruct the largest in the country by far, police force not to cooperate and work with ICE?
I think it's the forcing. And I say this as someone who has talked to rural sheriffs. I'm obviously in a very urban area, but I also represent Chatham County. And the way that one of the sheriffs put it to me, and in North Carolina, by statute, sheriffs are some of the most powerful people in our state. And I trust my sheriff to use his professional background experience to know what is best for our community. In the event that they know that there is a need to include a federal presence, they will do that. My issue becomes when you are instructing local law enforcement to serve as federal agents. That is not their job. So yes, as far as opening a door and saying, come on in, you need to allow locals to do what is best for their communities. And they have their information. When they need assistance from the feds, they know how to reach them, and they will reach out in the event that they need assistance with that.
Mayor, Governor?
This is where we're not seeking a middle ground of common sense in public safety. We do have to remember sheriffs are politicians too, so they're not going to upset their constituency in their Pacific area. If they're in a blue county or a red county, they're going to appeal to their political instincts. And frankly, we're politicizing public safety too much at this point in time. And when I was mayor again, and when I was governor, we had incredible cooperation on enforcing both federal and state and local laws using any agency we could. And, I just thought that worked. And right now, there's just no trust whatsoever. And it's become so politicized. And that's got to change, because we're talking about human life of not just the citizens we're arresting, but also the public safety officials. And if they're not working together, there is going to be a tragedy in either an ICE agent getting killed or a police officer getting killed because they have no line of communication. It's like working a hurricane where the federal and state governments and local governments aren't working together. They have to work together and form some sort of agreement. And the basic agreement politically, finally, is let's enforce the law, the immigration law, which we're sworn to uphold. When I was sworn in as a mayor and as a governor, I was sworn to uphold not only the North Carolina laws, but the federal laws.
Yeah.
And we're forgetting that. It's a two-way street. But you got to use common sense. Sometimes you enforce a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, 65. At this point in time with immigration, we have to enforce the law specifically against those who are breaking other laws, whether it's drunk driving, whether it's stealing, whether it's murder. Those are the people we need to target, and no one's working together as a team on that effort. And it's got to be, we need some sort of negotiation among these agencies and among the politicians to break free of this political stalemate in public safety.
You both go ahead, sir.
No, I haven't seen anything like this in 25 years of my public service, where there's this barrier between federal law, state law, and local laws. Because we all have to work together. If we're in these silos, we're looking for trouble.
You both give very thoughtful answers. I want to close this discussion about local police and ICE by just asking a yes/no question. If you were mayor of the city, Senator, do you think it's right for the mayor-elect in New York to say no cooperation between local law enforcement and ICE? A blanket. He seems to be saying there's a blanket prohibition for his police force in cooperating with ICE. Is that the right position, or should it be more flexible?
I cannot say yes or no on that. It does have to be a case by case basis, and I'll tell you why. If it is a active shooting incident, or if there's some massive public safety issue,
Right.
I think that local law enforcement needs to have the opportunity to say, we're going to do what's best. But when it comes to what we're seeing ICE do today, that is why you're getting that resistance, because they are unmasked, because they are denying folks due process. Even what we're seeing today in Durham is way worse than what we saw even in 2019. So we have seen a more aggressive approach, greater escalation. That is why you're getting that resistance from a lot of local communities, including Durham.
All right, Governor, is a blanket prohibition, as the mayor-elect seems to be proposing, a good idea or a bad idea?
It's inexcusable. We just can't have this division. It's almost like we're going back to the Articles of Confederation in the 1870s. You just can't have this. You've got to have cooperation between state and federal governments and local governments, or we're going to have a breakdown in civility and in enforcing our laws. But there's always a common ground to find, and you've got to get in the same room and see if you get agreement. This is, the constant difference we've had in our internal fights between state, local, and federal control. We're going back to the Constitution here. It's kind of ironic, and it's kind of interesting. The more liberal elements are going back to what the conservatives used to say, and vice versa. Isn't that ironic?
Right. Raise your hand if you want to end the conversation. A few more topics for our guests from me, and then to you all. AI, much in the news today for a variety of reasons. Big topic of the conversation between the president and Saudis and business leaders in Washington today. The stock market, which was down 4 days in a row, is now being buoyed by the NVIDIA report of huge earnings. So Dow futures are up huge, and everybody's expecting a big day on the market tomorrow. The First Lady talked about it today. And before we play that, Senator, how do you use AI in your office and in your private life?
Oh, wow. It is integral to everything now. I even have an AI tool built by one of my brilliant colleagues who has an MBA from MIT to summarize bills. I enjoy filing bills. I've filed over 100. So it's a great way to quickly summarize that before I'm going to an event. I use ChatGPT, scanning resumes, the list goes on and on. Really, really integral part of my everyday life. And it's here. You can't deny it. You can't fight it. It's a part of our lives.
What's a big way to use it in the Murdock household?
Definitely with ChatGPT. Someone gave me a trick of you can even plan vacations in your meal prep with it, of just saying, this is what's in my refrigerator. Give me 20 recipes. So basic everyday things I use.
Okay.
AI.
Big consumer, big user. Governor, how about you?
I'm late to the game, as most baby boomers, and I'm amazed at what it does. I think if I'd been running for political office 10 years ago or 20 years ago and I had AI, I wouldn't have hired a campaign manager. I just would have used AI for advice, or a so-called campaign consultant.
Yeah.
I might have saved some big money at that point in time.
Yeah.
So it's going to change the world.
Yeah. The Trump administration, one of their big selling points to Silicon Valley during the campaign against Vice President Harris was that they would regulate less, that there was too much regulation from the Biden administration. And the Biden administration put an emphasis on the dangers of AI and the need to slow down, think about regulation. The Trump administration has been more freewheeling, but in the last few months, you've heard more conversations from the White House and from some Republicans on Capitol Hill, and certainly from some Democrats, about the concerns about how AI is being used and might be used in the future. Here's the First Lady in North Carolina today talking to military families, talking about AI. Number 22, please.
Technology is changing the art of war. Predictably, AI will alter war more profoundly than any technology since nuclear weapons. The most significant change will be speed. Speed in weaponry, decision-making, detection, attack, and defense. Artificial intelligence will take center stage in the theater of war. It already plays a meaningful role on the battlefield. Of course, it is the Marine who will always play the most critical role in realizing mission success.
Governor, in general, do you think the government, state government and federal government should be more focused on trying to regulate AI to make sure it's used for good and not for evil, or the private sector is going to dominate no matter what?
Probably the latter. I know when I listen, the local governments, the state governments, when I became governor in 2013, just controlling IT, much less AI was a mess. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, every change of administration, people trying to infiltrate our computers. In fact, the senator, even in transportation, we had people trying to infiltrate our computers to try to get bidding contracts for highways from China. China was trying to infiltrate our computers and trying to find out the bids were so they could sneak in and get good bids. So it was a total mess, IT. And I can't imagine since that time how IA has come up. I think the overseeing of this is going to be a very, very difficult mission for government. And in fact, finding the talent to oversee it, working for government, is going to be very difficult because I couldn't afford the talent to come work for state government with IT, much less AI.
Yeah, Senator, I agree with what the governor just said, and I look at as someone who covered quite closely the Congress's inability to regulate Silicon Valley, the big social media platforms, just for all the reasons the governor said, not level of expertise, no ability to keep up. So what are you and your colleagues in North Carolina thinking in the legislature about how to deal with AI to make sure it's not used in ways that are harmful to the people of your state?
Yes, that same colleague that made, I think it's called an AI widget, is what she made for me to summarize all the hundreds of bills that are filed here in the state of North Carolina. She is actually joining our current governor, Governor Stein, on an AI task force. And my other colleague, have to lift him up, Representative Zach Hawkins. He's been working behind the scenes on AI for 3 to 4 years. So I think it's a mixed approach. I think we still have to be involved. Right down the street, I represent North Carolina Central University. North Carolina A&T is our largest HBCU. They have partnered with private industry to make sure that our students, we have so many tech companies, so many universities. So for one, we need to know what's going on so that we can market it and make our state a leader in this space, since the Research Triangle Park is also in my district. But as far as regulations, I definitely think social media is a great example. You can't be completely hands off because we definitely know there was a lot of concerning activity going on with elections and Facebook and kind of what all of that looks like. So it's not as if you come in and micromanage everything, but definitely you need guardrails. You need to be aware because the technology is constantly changing. And luckily for us right here in North Carolina, have a great example of, we have a colleague that just got her MBA from MIT. So they're in Boston, getting the best of the best. So she has volunteered to kind of help us figure this out as a state. I'm a part of a group called the Future Caucus. It's for legislators under 45 all over the nation, from Arkansas to Florida. So many states are working on bipartisan legislation around AI. So I definitely think we can strike a balance where the private industry can really thrive with it, but definitely there will need to be some guardrails. You know, Big Brother's always going to be watching. So I definitely think we need some of that and can figure out a way to strike the right balance. Because if you're completely hands off, then it can become it can really, really get out of control when it's too late, which I do think that is what happened with social media. Because quickly on that, even just basic guidelines of how old you should be on TikTok, we're still grappling with those things. You know, so I think when it comes to schools, children, what it looks like in the classroom, you definitely will have a role for government in that.
All right, really well said. Thank you for that. All right, let's do a couple things. I want to play for you some video. This is the First and Second Lady meeting with military children in North Carolina today, number 24. While we watch these delightful pictures together, I'll remind you, if you want to get in on the conversation in just a moment with the senator and the governor, please raise your hand. And don't forget, at the top of the hour, Ari David will be here to guide us through an hour conversation about anti-Semitism, the conservative movement, and amongst the people joining him will be Laura Loomer, making her return to Two-Way, that we're excited about. So let's look at that video, please. This number 24.
Hi, Mrs. Chloe. share her. She's introducing me to all of them. Oh, yes. She loves to.
All right, that couldn't be cuter. All right, a quick word from another sponsor, and then to your questions again. If you want to get in the conversation, please raise your hand. One of our regular sponsors here, the good folks from Lean, parent Brickhouse sale right now, brickhousesale.com. Go to that website, brickhousesale.com, for 30% off their Black Friday discount. Run by doctors, invented by doctors. The doctors have sales. Yes, they do. Not my doctor, but the doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition do. They just announced this Black Friday 30% off sale, their biggest of the year. 30% off products like Lean, doctor-formulated weight loss supplement for people who don't want to use those injectables but want to lose weight in a meaningful way, not swing up and down, but lose it consistently. Creatone, designed specifically for women to help women look leaner, stay in shape without extra dieting. And then 30% also off Field of Greens, super fruit and vegetable drink shown to slow aging. Field of Greens promises better health results that you and your doctor will notice. Every Brickhouse product available now, 30% off. Go right now, though, because the sale will not last forever. BrickHouseSale.com. Save 30% off. BrickHouseSale.com. 30% off. Thank you for your attention to that matter. Here's Ray, who lives in Ohio. Ray, welcome in. Question for the senator and for the mayor governor.
Thank you, Mark. Senator, Governor, one of the things I really love about two-way is that people tend to come on and leave their partisan lens at the door. So thank you very much for that. Reference immigration. Listening to the two of you, I bet you both could sit in a room for an hour and figure out the immigration problem without rancor, without animus. So my question is, outside of the two things most people agree on, which is criminals need to get out, the border needs to be secure, what are three areas of immigration the two of you agree with? And if you can do that here in a couple of minutes, why can't the federal government do it?
I think we've already shown agreement. I've heard some things with the senator saying she has no problem with it. I think she said this, and I've heard other Democrats say this. They have no problem enforcing immigration law against those illegal immigrants that have broke other laws.
Absolutely.
And that's a change, actually, from the Democrats. It's coming more toward the center on the issue because they were on their heels on that issue. And the Republicans, I think most Republicans now would probably say, there's no way we can sweep everyone off the streets for various reasons. They don't have the capability. The economy will be impacted and so forth. I think there's a middle ground on immigration. And I bet the senator and I were in Washington. We got in a room. We could come up with an immigration bill. You know, Ben Chavis and I worked together, who's from North Carolina, Dr. Ben Chavis, good friend of mine from Durham. He's working at Duke right now, in fact. You know, we found out with no labels that we agreed on 90% of the issues. And I thought he was some radical left winger, and he thought I was a radical right winger because that's how the media portrayed us. And I could tell this senator is, you know, first of all, I'm very impressed with you, Senator, the way you know the issues and communicate. I'm excited about North Carolina's future with people like you in office.
Yeah, it's a slightly misleading impression. I don't want folks to think that every state senator from around the country is quite as bright and well-informed as this one. So.
Oh, they are. Of course.
Yeah,
That's what I said when I was governor. I had to.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Ray, did you want to ask anything else or say anything else?
Well, I'm going to jump into.
Oh, yeah, please do,
Thank
Senator.
you, Ray, for the question. And I love your Christmas decorations. They are everything. I am jealous that I am not as with it as you with the Christmas decorations. But to your point, I can't. It's called Chatham House Rules, where we can't say everybody that's a part of the group. Ironically, there is a bipartisan group in North Carolina, not just electeds, advocates, law enforcement, that's that sheriff I mentioned, where we are saying, what can we do right around immigration here in North Carolina today? And similar to myself and Governor McCrory, we agree on so many things, particularly when it comes to your schools, your religious places, focusing on those who have committed crimes. I would even add violent crimes. I would like to be the focus. I would like, discretion, doing it in a way that's not disruptive to communities. I think there are a lot of good things we can do with it. One that we have not talked about tonight in the midst of this healthcare crisis are highly skilled, specialized labor. For healthcare specifically, we will never have enough. If you are a nurse or a LPN or a MD, I want to keep you here, because we don't have enough. We have an aging population. People are getting older. I have a constituent that is 113 years old, and she still needs health care. And so I think there's very specific skills. Tech, IT is another one with me representing the Research Triangle Park. I think that if you have very specific, highly valued skills, that's another reason. And I don't view it as taking jobs away. I lead with healthcare because we will literally never have enough. We are struggling with all areas of healthcare where we don't have enough people. Specifically, nurses is one. I don't want to lose a single nurse because I want to keep people alive when they go to the ER, when they go to the doctor. I want them to get the healthcare that they need. So
And
specialized
Mark,
skills is one for me.
Mark, if I could say one other thing, as you see, we're communicating with each other. The party's leaders don't like to see people communicate with each other. There's a disincentive for elected officials. I'm no longer an elected official, so I don't care. Well, I care, but I don't have to worry with those constraints. But there's on both parties, as George Washington warned us, actually constrained or punished for working together across the aisle. And that's a sad commentary, and both parties are to blame for that.
Yeah. Ray, thank you. Again, raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. A couple things that have broken while we're talking here that I want to share with you. First of all, a couple news organizations reporting that the White House plans an executive order as early as this week to ban states from regulating AI, which would be an interesting 10th Amendment, 9th Amendment, 10th Amendment gambit to say the states can't legislate, and it's in an area of great concern. The other thing is we looked this morning on the morning meeting at a poll from Reuters that had the president's approval rating at the lowest they've had it in this term. And now Fox News has a poll. President's not the biggest fan of Fox News's polls, by the way, but let's put that up. Similar trend line. And again, we try not to react to single polls, but if you see a bunch of polls that are all in the same direction, you got to pay attention. His approval ratings at 41%, disapproval 58%. 58% disapproval is the highest that Fox has ever had his disapproval. 45% strongly disapprove. And you can see his approval rating on the economy, 61 disapprove, healthcare, 64 disapprove, both of that all-time highs in the Fox poll. Senator, if the president called you and said, Senator, why are my polls not doing so well? What would you tell him?
People are feeling the pain. I mean, for one, approval, right? Elections are a glorified popularity contest. So if people not only don't like you, but if they don't believe your policies are making their lives better, particularly when it comes to the economy, you cannot campaign and run on the economy and then try to say, oh no, groceries are still affordable. And I'm calling us out on this. We try to explain away people's pain. When President Biden was in the White House and people said, I don't feel it. When I'm getting gas, when I'm getting my groceries, I do not feel it. And we're now on the verge of healthcare premiums going up. Over 800,000 North Carolinians, their healthcare is going to go up. You have a lot of folks that are dreading Thanksgiving, that are canceling Christmas. There's nothing more personal than saying, I don't know how I'm going to get gifts for my children at Christmas. So I think particularly at the holidays, even in my family, we are not exchanging gifts. We are only giving gifts to the children. And I say this as a family that's pretty blessed, and we always have a really big Christmas. We don't even want to put people in the position to where they can't do that. So, a basic political mantra is, are you doing better now than you were 4 years ago, is what we say for presidentials. I don't think a lot of people are doing better than they were at the top of the year. We've had over 1 million people on the low end to lose their jobs. You have federal employees that just got reinstated. I think both first ladies for visiting our veterans here in North Carolina. But you had veterans that were in line to get food when they did not know if they were going to get paid or not. So I think it's also the uncertainty of people are constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop with this administration. So I think a lot of people are very concerned about their futures and their ability to support their families. And I think that's what's shown in the approval ratings.
Well said, Senator. You speak for tens of millions with that analysis. I think, Governor, I want to show you the headline that Fox put on their poll. This is it got to hurt Donald Trump in sort of politics more than anything, because he thinks of his calling card as how his ability to be a good steward of a good economy. Here's the Fox headline. I saw it up before, so I know we have it. Voters say White House is doing more harm than good on the economy. the government shutdown damaged voter views of lawmakers, Senator Schumer in particular. So Senator Schumer's not doing great in the poll either. But Governor, if you talk to people at the White House who will acknowledge the president's polls are down, they'll say the shutdown wasn't good for his poll numbers. The whole focus on Jeffrey Epstein's not good. What do you think of the senator's analysis of why the president's poll numbers are bad? Would you revise and extend anything she said, or just endorse it and we'll move on?
I think she's got a second career in broadcasting. She's good. By the way, politically, I always believe that presidents and governors and mayors get far too much blame and credit for the economy, especially if they've only been in office 7 or 8 months. Sure. I mean, all of us know that no one, whatever I did as a mayor or governor, you didn't really see the positive or negative impact for at least 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So this game we played is very similar to look at quarterly earnings of companies when, in fact, most executives are making decisions, hopefully, for the next 5 to 10 years. And so, but that's the danger of politics. When you run on the economy, you're going to lose on the economy, too.
Yes, sir. All right, let's bring in more folks. Yakov, I happen to know, like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Junior's Cheesecake is in Brooklyn, New York City. Welcome in, sir. Thank you for coming back and been on a bit. So glad to have you here. Question for the senator and for the governor.
Yeah. First of all, Yakov, Brooklyn, New York, subscriber to Next Up and all the two-way Spotify. I'm saying that because I want to go back to August. It's been a crappy few months since Charlie was murdered and everything that happened since then. So my head's still in August. Second, Mark, please, I love your monologues on Next Up. They're so calming, informative, and makes you think in a whole different way. So I love that.
Yeah, very grateful to you. You sound just like my mom, so I appreciate that.
And I have a beef because how could you advertise Cozy Earth and at the same time advertise the CBD? If you get the bedding, if you get the jogger and you get the cuddle, you could sleep for 10 hours without any CBD. So
I hear you. They work in symphony together, but I hear you. Not everybody necessarily needs them both at once, but
all right.
You make a good point. And then
for the North Carolina people, I once flew into North Carolina. I drove up to Brevard. We purchased a Food Line over there, so I love North Carolina. And Mark, all I can say is, please get Natalie to be on the two-way morning together with Scott Jennings. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, it's a great idea, Natalie. I don't know, are you busy at 9 a.m. Eastern time most mornings?
Hey, we can make it happen. We can move some zones and calls around and make it happen.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate it. And Senator, we'll be in touch. All right, let's go to Mitchell. Or sorry, Michael. No, Mitchell. As I said, Mitchell. Mitchell, welcome in. Thanks for being part of Two Way. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for the two North Carolinians.
Nice to talk to y'all. I am in Arizona, and I wanted to propose a theory on the optics for Donald J. Trump and kind of what is happening with those poll numbers.
Yes,
and
sir.
Is that the plan of attack that the administration has had as far as flooding the zone and doing a million things all at the same time, super fast, always there is something that is popping. The news cycle has been just 24/7, 365, and it still hasn't been a full year yet. And so much has happened in that intervening period that I think most people look back and don't really understand that it hasn't even been a year yet. And so when it comes to things that move slowly, like economic changes, as opposed to, ceasefires and all kinds of other stuff that if you're looking at it from a 10,000-foot view, has moved very fast. Things that are going to have to move incrementally, like inflation changes and all the rest of that, feel like they are happening far too slow because of the speed of everything else.
That
And
is that is a sophisticated theory, my man.
That really is.
Governor, I think we're on an episode of Star Trek where you played 3D chess, so you're qualified to answer this one. What do you think of that?
I think he's dead on. I think chaos is not a good political attribute,
Yeah.
especially if there's not a crisis every minute. He's picking too many battles. He's fighting too many battles, from macro battles to micro, the tearing down the East Wing or calling someone a name. I have found out in politics, to my detriment, and I learned it too late, if you try to fight every battle, people will get tired of the chaos. And I think at that time there's going to be fatigue with Trump and with President Trump, and I agree. It feels like he's been president longer this term because of the constant chaos. And some of the chaos is self-inflicted and not needed.
Yeah. Senator, wouldn't it be incredible if you could fix the economy at the speed of Truth Social?
If only,
Yeah.
if only, if only. And to Mitchell's point, the ceasefire deal alone, you all know most presidents, they would have rode that wave for weeks. For you to just jump off of that and make up other things and say, oh, and we're going to renovate the White House at the same time. What is the point? Focus on the things that you're doing very well and get ahead of the narrative. And there is no narrative because you get whiplash. And it also, I think, has worked to their disadvantage because folks are just really tired. And so it's making people not engage at all, turn the TV off, say, I don't want to hear any of it, instead of highlighting, the few things that they really are getting right. And the ceasefire deal is one of them. But definitely these self-inflicted wounds, definitely ill-advised. I will never understand it, but definitely flooding the zone is a strategy, but it does not necessarily work for governing. It works for campaigning, but when you are in the White House, it is very difficult to fight all these battles and think that people can even keep up with the few good things that you actually do.
Well said. Mitchell, great theory. Thank you. Grateful for you being on. I'm going to sneak in one more message from one more sponsor because that's life. Here's my segue, life insurance. There you go. Life insurance from Ethos. Ethos.com/two-way will get you a free quote. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy. Protect your family's future in minutes, not in months. Helps provide financial security. Think about the need for tuition payments or mortgage payments or other costs if the family breadwinner is not able to be there to help make the money. Application times may vary and your rates may vary, but this is an opportunity to go get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Ethos is an online platform, as I said, no complicated process, 100% online. There's no medical exam required. Just answer a few health questions and you get a quote again in as little as 10 minutes. Right now, get a free quote, ethos.com/two-way, ethos.com/two-way to get your free quote. Protect your family now with life insurance from Ethos. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Thank you for that. All right, Ryan, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are. A question for the senator and for the governor after you unmute.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. I think we lost Mr. McCrory.
All right, we'll see if he comes. See if he gets him back. Go ahead.
With that said, so the affordability crisis, it seems like that's where Democrats are succeeding lately. It seems as if the Trump administration is starting to identify that as an issue with respect to groceries. I think still one of the biggest matters that has not been addressed, and this could be states as well as the federal government, is affordable housing. As a developer, not a former developer, at what point do we think that the Trump administration is going to start to address this and remove many of the tariffs that are affecting the cost of building? I'm someone who works in the construction industry on the manufacturing side, and it's affecting us in a critical manner.
Spectacular question. Senator, how do you see that from North Carolina?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think too, as it relates to tariffs, you nailed it. We've seen recent movements where the president is saying he's going to do something around the cost of beef and other grocery items. But yes, timber, all these other things. Because I think recently, yes, there were some farmers that they interviewed of all the issues that they were having, with timber and trying to export it, let alone import it and all these costs. So yes, I think that is one you can't get around. And I say this as North Carolina, I am a a senator in a very urban area. Durham is the 4th largest county. Durham as a city is on track to be the 3rd largest city in our state. So we, at one point, were one of the hottest real estate markets in the nation, driving up cost. In the midst of COVID, we did not even have, there was a time where we had less than 100 homes on the MLS of a county of 348,000, which is insane. So I definitely think, to your point, with the president, I can cut deals and I build things, and that's what I do for a living. It actually is pretty insane that it hasn't come up yet. And with affordability, we see the market. Folks are staying in their homes. They're not moving because where are they going to move to? And even in rural areas, we have a lot of rural communities here in North Carolina. They are now having affordability issues as well. So it's not just an urban issue. I recently heard a story of a young teacher fresh out of college. When her rent went up, she could not afford it. She moved back home with her mom and now has an hour drive to work. So when you're talking about these young people with these starting salaries, they don't have a lot of options whatsoever. And that was a big part of why you saw the success in New York, where talks of Mandani around affordable housing. So not to say that everybody can enact those specific policies, but here in North Carolina, it is one of those where we cannot escape it. Everybody is facing it. And I do think if it were something that federally folks would take head on with streamlining how you build, getting the cost of materials down, and even looking at lot sizes. There are all sorts of things that folks can do, incentives. So I don't even think we federally scratched the surface on what we can do around affordability and housing. But no, phenomenal.
Senator, do you think it'll get better anytime soon?
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, I know that we're federally, as always, they look at, interest rate changes, but it's going to take more than that. And I think it's also wages are just not keeping up with the high costs as well. You can't talk about affordable housing if you don't also talk about wages. Yep. And so if you're just not making a lot of money, your check just isn't going as far because you're looking at your healthcare cost, your grocery costs, plus your monthly mortgage, plus your student loans. And all of that is why you just don't see a lot of people jumping into this housing market at this time.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you. Really great question. Appreciate it. Governor, welcome back. Grateful to you. Right. That's okay. I just back in time for me to thank you both. Loved having you both on, Governor. Great for you to coming back. And Senator, I hope you'll come back on a regular basis. We loved having you both on. Exactly the kind of conversations we try to have here. We say conversations like no other. And I can tell you, I didn't watch every cable channel every hour during the day today, but I can say without fear of contradiction, this was a conversation like no other. And that's thanks to the two of you and the community member questions. So thank you both for being here.
Best to the Senator, too. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Hope to have you both back soon. All right.